Matt Berner, you're taking a look at the Friday DRFBets race of the day. The ninth race from Keeneland Race Course happens to be the Grade 3 Valley View, mile and 16th on the turf course for 3-year-old fillies. Before we dive into the field, I'd encourage you to head on over to DRFBets. Check out the latest offer for new sign-up members. DRF.com/bet is the address. Let's take a look at the field in post position order. Again, it's a field of 15 actually. It's an overdrawn field. Only 14 of them will go. You can head over to the Race of the Day page on DRF.com, download free formulator past performances, handicap along as we go through. With the number 1, Reverse the Decision, kicking things off. 1 of 2 in here for Chad Brown. She's done nothing wrong through 5 lifetime starts. 2 times a winner, 4 times in the money. Most recently, the best buyer of her career with an 86, but she was beaten in the Sands Point up at Belmont Park. She finished 4th by 3 lengths. It was over-yielding turf, perhaps that's the excuse, but at the same time, 2 starts back, she was a winner over-yielding ground up at Saratoga. So I don't know that you can use that as a legitimate excuse. I do wonder, she's so lightly raced, you probably get a forward move. An 8-1 proposition with Javier and Chad in a graded stakes race on turf, you could certainly do worse than Reverse the Decision. Number 2 is Cabela. Cabela goes out, and unfortunately for her and her connections, she just looks overmatched on paper. 2 times in her career has she earned buyers of 81. 81 is not nearly fast enough to win this race on Friday. You're probably looking at something in the high 80, even maybe even a low 90 range from a buyer's standpoint. And unfortunately for her and the connections, I just don't think that she is good enough to win in a spot like this. I'm sure they would be over the moon if she hit the board. The number 3 horse is Daddy is a Legend, going out for George Weaver. Now, this is a horse, she's really danced all the dances for the most part for the 3-year-old fillies this year on turf. The concern with her really has come down to, there have been those rare instances where she just doesn't quite cut the mustard. And is she getting any better, or has she plateaued in that high 80, low 90 range? I will note that it feels like 2 of her more subpar efforts as a 3-year-old have come when there has been given the ground, and it sounds like, knock on wood, there will not be any sort of moisture in the forecast down in the Lexington, Kentucky area. So firm going, we know that's what she likes. She's won at Keeneland in the past. There is a lot to like here. A little bit of a negative formulator fact that we can take a look at for George Weaver. Past 5 years, 61 to 180 days in graded stakes races, 0 for 9, only 3 of them hitting the board. To be fair, it's a relatively small sample size, so I don't know that I would draw any giant conclusions from that. Manny Franco comes down from New York to ride. Daddy is a Legend, 7-2 on the morning line. She is a legitimate threat in here. This distance is right in her wheelhouse. Makes plenty of sense. The other Chad Brown horse is the number 4, Mighty Scarlet. Jose Ortiz with the mount. She's another one, very lightly raced. You can basically say everything the same that you said with Mighty Scarlet and Reverse the Decision. Lightly raced, plenty of upside, has competitive speed figures. The question now is she this good? They tried her in the Belmont Oaks 2 starts back. She didn't run poorly, but she didn't run great. Took some time off, came back at the beginning of September, won an N1X at Saratoga, The problem with that race, come back very, very weak thus far. You've had 3 horses exit that race and earn 70 or lower buyer speed figures. Mighty Scarlet, another 8-1 chance as far as the morning line is concerned. She's going to be a interesting, to be honest with you, I feel like she's the one that perhaps has more upside of the 2 Chads, but at the same time, that's a very tepid sort of opinion. I think they're both legitimate, interesting contenders at 8-1. Number 5 is Cool Beans. Now, Cool Beans, we should start talking about this filly with the Timeform US Pace Projector. Let's take a look at that. You can see that they have the 5 Cool Beans out by herself, all on the front end. Nobody else really giving her any kind of pressure. The 10 a few lengths behind, and then the 8 and the 6. I think Florent Giroux, you've got one job, obviously. That's just to break and try to put her onto the front. But also, I think this is going to be one of those rare instances where usually I'm an advocate of, you've got speed, use it. Try to break this thing open. I don't know that that's necessarily the perfect move for a filly like this, because I know she's won at the distance, but I think she might be better going slightly shorter. And if you try to just bottom the field out, is that going to sap a little bit of that energy for that final 16th of a mile? I think you just try to nurse it. Maybe you try to get some separation in sort of the middle portion of the race in the second and third quarter. But at the end of the day, if you don't think that anyone is going to keep her company up front, it's not like she can't run. She's a nice, talented filly. She's stakes placed already through 6 lifetime starts. She's never been out of the money in 6 lifetime starts. I think you have to at least consider her, particularly at the 10-1 morning line odds that she's offering. I think Cool Beans is interesting. The 6 is Beach Waltz. Now, Beach Waltz is another horse very similar to the 2 horse that we spoke about, Cabela. To be honest with you, she's just not that fast. Based on what she has done thus far in her career through 8 lifetime starts, a career best buyer of 82, that's simply not fast enough to get the job done. Now, perhaps she takes a step forward, second start off the bench, but at the end of the day, I don't love anyone coming out of that race from Indiana Grand, and there are a number of them running in this spot, and she's just going to need to run so much better than she has to date to have any real chance in this race. Another instance where I think the connections would be happy if they hit the board. Number 7 is Colonia. Going out for Graham Motion. Joe Bravo has the mount again. This is a filly that, look, she's already a stakes winner here in the States. She won her stateside debut in the Hatoof. That was at Arlington Park. Came back in the Del Mar Oaks. I thought it was a bit of a peculiar and perhaps passive ride from Joel Rosario. Came on with a little bit of belated energy, and I kind of figured they would want to stretch her out to 1.25 miles with the way that she finished. Instead, they chose to keep her at 1 1/8 miles in the Sands Point over yielding ground. And unfortunately for her and anyone else trying to come from off of it, and that includes the filly down on the inside reverse of the decision, there just wasn't much pace signed on in the race. I thought she finished very well. The problem is she may be pace compromised again. I think Colonia is very talented. 6-1 on the morning line. I'm certainly interested. I just think she's going to need a little bit of help up front to really accentuate that late kick. And I do also wonder, maybe this 1 1/16 might be a hair on the sharp side for her. Number 8, Good Things Take Time. Now, Good Things Take Time is a horse that I've been a fan of basically ever since she got here. I think Jorge Abreu does very good work. The concern for her is she usually finds at least 1 or 2 that seem to be able to get the job done over her. She seems like she gets close, and can't quite get over the hump. I think she's very talented. I don't think the distance is a problem. She's run well at Keeneland in the past. Again, she's another one that she has a little bit of tactical speed, but I do feel like her best runs come when she is slightly off of the pace as opposed to up there pushing it. We'll find out where she's positioned beneath Ricardo Santana on Friday afternoon. Number 9, More Fun Again. This is a horse for Tom Proctor. Back-to-back victories, broke the maiden 2 starts back at Laurel Park, came back with a nice effort, most recently in an N1X at Kentucky Downs. Usually, as a sort of just very, very general rule of thumb, the Kentucky Downs form generally translates to Keeneland quite well. Unfortunately for this filly and these connections, that race from Kentucky Downs has come back dreadful thus far, and from a speed figure standpoint, she just simply put needs to run much faster if she's going to be a threat. The number 10, High Tech. She also exits that race from Indiana Grand, that stakes race I mentioned earlier with Beach Waltz, who ran 3rd that day. I don't think High Tech is fast enough. It is nice to know that she could work out a very good trip in here where she figures to be forwardly placed. If I'm Chris Landeros and I'm Ian Wilkes, I look at it and say, if we let the 5 horse go by herself, we're probably not going to be able to run her down and then hold off the other closers. I would probably say, and I don't know if this is what the connections will do, but I would try to get a little bit more aggressive. Get her into the run earlier, more close to that run 2 starts back where she was a winner in that N1X. Get up there and push the pace a little bit. And then perhaps there's a scenario where the 5 horse relinquishes and said, well, maybe we're just more talented than you are. I think that's really the only way that High Tech can win this race. She could work out a great trip, no question about it, if they choose to sit off of the 5, but at the same time, I don't think that's the best opportunity for her to win. If they want to win this race, I think they've got to try to go. She is already stakes placed. Obviously, a graded stakes placing would help, but at the end of the day, I think their best opportunity to win this race is to be aggressive and try to send her. Number 11 is Sirenusa, or Siren USA, however you'd like to pronounce it. This is a nice filly for Joe Sharp. She's done some good things throughout her career, and I don't know that I want to hold that Indiana Grand race most recently against her that was off of a few-month layoff. I think you're going to get a forward move here. The question is, can she get back to that run from Canterbury, 3 starts back? If you get back to that Lady Canterbury effort where she ran into I'm Betty G, who's a nice older filly, there's a real scenario where Siren USA can at least, or Sirenusa can at least get involved at a big number. 20-1 on the morning line for Joe Sharp. I think Sharp does a very good job. I think she's a talented filly. Don't know that she's necessarily a prime win contender in here, but I think she can get a piece. The 12 is Get Explicit. This is a horse that's done basically, for the most part, most of her running up north of the border at Woodbine. She has run at Keeneland on 2 occasions, and it's nice to see that she's been facing older horses in her most recent sort of races, and she's coming into it in good form. Most recently, a winner of an optional claiming event that came over yielding ground. If you think that she is continuing to move and progress the right direction, then she is also interesting at a big, big price. There's a part of me that wonders if she is just slightly compromised as far as the class is concerned, even having faced older horses in her recent races. Number 13 is Poetic Charm, and I feel like this is going to be the horse that most people look at as the alternative to the Chads and the alternative to the Daddy is a Legend and those types, because she is unexposed here in the States anyway. This is going to be her first start in North America, Coming over for Charlie Appleby, Mike Smith is named on the ride on the mount here. 4-1 on the morning line. She gets Lasix for the first time. The thing for me when I look at this horse, the 3 times that they have tested her in group company, once as a 2-year-old and then twice this year in races 2 and 3 starts back, she just hasn't quite been able to pass the test. She's usually better suited against slightly lesser company. And we've talked about it ad nauseum. Usually when the Europeans come over here, they're just more talented than our fillies and mares are. And I can even say that about the boys. But I do wonder if this is one of those instances where let the price be the guide. If all of a sudden she gets bet down to 5-2 or 3-1, does she have any tremendous edge on this field? As a matter of fact, I don't think she has any real edge on this field. Now, the Lasix, perhaps that moves her up. The most recent run that she had over at Longchamp, she earned a 105 time form rating. If you think that the Lasix move her up 5 to 10 points, obviously she is right there at the wire, but I would argue at an underlaid price, she is one of the more intriguing entrants in this race, but I think she's going to be a bit of an underlay. That's the number 13, Poetic Charm. The number 14, Chipolata. The last one we will discuss, no disrespect to the horse on the also eligible list, but we only want to talk about the horses in the body of the field at this point. Chipolata for Christophe Clement was the 3rd place finisher of the Grade 1 Belmont Oaks back at the beginning of July. Now, we haven't seen her since then. Now, normally, we know what Clement is capable of, and Clement is one of the best turf trainers that we have here in North America. There is in my opinion, quite an alarming formulator fact that we're going to take a look at right now for Christophe Clement. Over the past 5 years, graded stakes races at Keeneland, over 27, 7 of them hitting the board. Now, this is a horse that's going to take some money. She's a brutal post, breaking from post number 14. She's going to be coming from the back of the pack in a race that doesn't have a ton of pace, and she hasn't been seen since the beginning of July. To me, at odds of 5-1, Chipolata, I think she might be one of the best horses in the race, but there's just a few things there going against her, in my opinion. And then I also have the feeling that, look at this distance. Mile and a 16th, her past 5 races. Mile and a quarter, she's run 4 times, and once at a mile and 3/8. I wonder if this distance is going to be a little bit sharp for her. Maybe this is a means to an end to get to a longer race, wherever that may end up being. To me, at 5-1, I'll use her underneath, but I don't want to use her on top. That's the number 14, Chipolata. Might be the most talented horse in the race. Don't know that I really want her on top in a spot like this. It's an interesting race. The 9th at Keeneland on Friday afternoon, the DRFBets race of the day, the Grade 3 Valley View. You can go many different ways. Ultimately, I'm going to go with a horse that's become a bit of a pet of mine. I've been chasing Colonia. Little bit. Liked her in that Del Mar Oaks. Thought she ran just fine. I picked her second behind Ollie's Candy. Thought she ran just fine in the Sands Point. Liked her that day as well. Thought she was pace compromised. A little bit concerned about this distance. Maybe it's a little bit on the sharp side, but at the end of the day, I think she's better than what her page would suggest. And again, all she needs is a little bit of help up front. 6-1 on the morning line. I'm going to go with the number 7, Colonia. Race number 7 at Keeneland, or race number 9 at Keeneland, excuse me, on Friday afternoon. The Grade 3 Valley View. 7, 5, 3, 14 for me in order. If you're playing the Grade 3 Valley View or any of the other races at Keeneland on Friday, or any races anywhere for that matter, head on over to DRFBets. All sorts of great new offers for new sign-up members. Head on over to drf.com/bet. That's the address where you get all the details on how to sign up and collect your nice bonus. Scheduled post time for the DRFBets race of the day for Friday, the 9th at Keeneland, the Grade 3 Valley View, 5:30 Eastern. Good luck.